The story of the Sodder children is one of the most perplexing and enduring mysteries in American history. It centers around the tragic and controversial events of Christmas Eve 1945 in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder, Italian immigrants, lived with their 10 children in a 2-story timber frame house. What seemed to be a routine Christmas Eve soon unraveled into an enigma that has fascinated investigators and the public alike for decades. On the night of December 24, 1945, the Sodder family retired to bed after a joyous evening of gift-giving and celebration. Around 1 a.m., Jenny Sodder was awakened by the sound of the telephone ringing. Answering the call, she heard a strange woman's voice asking for a name she didn't recognize, followed by laughter and glasses clinking in the background. Jenny hung up and returned to bed, but soon noticed that the house was filled with smoke. She woke her husband George, and they discovered that a fire had broken out in the office, where George kept his business records. George and Jenny, along with 4 of their children, managed to escape the burning house. However, 5 of the Sodder children, Maurice, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jenny, 8, and Betty, 5, were trapped inside. In a desperate attempt to save them, George broke a window, severely cutting his arm. He tried to use a ladder that was always kept propped against the house, but it was inexplicably missing. George then attempted to start both of his trucks to drive them next to the house and use them to climb to the second-floor windows, but neither truck would start despite having worked perfectly the previous day. The fire department, hampered by a lack of manpower due to wartime shortages and the fact that the chief was not immediately available, did not arrive until 8 a.m., by which time the house had been reduced to ash. No remains of the 5 children were found. The fire chief suggested that the blaze had been hot enough to completely cremate the bodies, but a subsequent investigation by a crematorium employee contradicted this, stating that even at the highest temperatures, bones would remain. In the days and years following the fire, numerous clues and oddities suggested that something more sinister might have occurred. The ladder used by George was found at the bottom of an embankment 75 feet away. A telephone repairman told the Sodders that their lines appeared to have been cut, not burned. A woman claimed to have seen the missing children peering from a passing car while the fire was in progress. Another woman, who operated a tourist stop between Fayetteville and Charleston, said she had seen the children the morning after the fire. Theories ranged from a kidnapping orchestrated by the Sicilian mafia. George was outspoken about his opposition to Mussolini and had had conflicts with other Italian Americans, to a more personal vendetta. Over the years, the Sodders received various tips and supposed sightings of their children, including a photograph of a young man sent anonymously in 1967 who bore a striking resemblance to their son Louis. Despite hiring private detectives and appealing to the FBI for assistance, the Sodders never found conclusive evidence of their children's fate. The Sodder family maintained a billboard on Route 16 for decades, displaying the children's pictures and offering a reward for information leading to their recovery. The surviving Sodder children and their descendants have continued the search, determined to uncover the truth about what happened that fateful Christmas Eve. The Sodder children mystery remains one of the most compelling unsolved cases in American history. It raises profound questions about loss, hope, and the lengths to which a family will go to find answers. Despite the passage of time, the case of the Sodder children endures, a haunting reminder of how some mysteries can persist in the shadows, never fully revealing their secrets. The case of D.B. Cooper is a tale of daring, intrigue, and a seemingly impossible escape. On the afternoon of November 24, 1971, a man using the alias Dan Cooper purchased a one-way ticket on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. This ordinary act set the stage for an extraordinary heist that has captivated the public imagination for over 5 decades. Dressed in a business suit, white shirt, black tie, and loafers, the man who would become known as D.B. Cooper boarded the Boeing 727 with 35 other passengers. He was in his mid-40s, around 6 feet tall, and having dark hair and brown eyes. After the plane took off, Cooper handed a note to Florence Schaffner, the flight attendant, claiming he had a bomb in his briefcase. Initially dismissing it as a lonely man's attempt to flirt, Schaffner pocketed the note without reading it. Cooper then leaned toward her and whispered, "Miss, "You'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Schaffner, now aware of the gravity of the situation, conveyed the message to the cockpit. The note demanded $200,000 in unmarked bills, 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane for a subsequent flight. Captain William Scott contacted Seattle-Tacoma International Airport Air Traffic Control, who in turn informed local and federal authorities. The airline cooperated with the demands, and the passengers were told they would experience a routine delay due to a minor mechanical issue. When the plane landed in Seattle, the authorities complied with Cooper's demands. They delivered the ransom money and parachutes while Cooper allowed the passengers and some of the flight crew to disembark. He retained a skeleton crew to assist with his getaway. His instructions were explicit. The plane was to take off again, heading towards Mexico City, with the landing gear down, the wing flaps set to 15 degrees, and the cabin unpressurized. He also stipulated a low altitude of under 10,000 feet and a speed below 200 knots. These unusual requests suggested a familiarity with aviation and parachuting, as these conditions would facilitate a safe jump from the plane. Approximately 40 minutes after takeoff, somewhere over the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper made his daring escape. He ordered the remaining crew into the cockpit and lowered the aft stairs of the aircraft. At around 8:13 p.m., with storm clouds obscuring the night sky, Cooper jumped from the plane with the ransom money strapped to his body, vanishing into the darkness below. Despite an extensive manhunt involving the FBI, state troopers, and even the military, Cooper was never found. Investigators scoured the suspected drop zone in southern Washington, yet no definitive trace of Cooper, dead or alive, was uncovered. Theories about his fate abound. Some suggest he perished in the rugged wilderness, while others believe he survived and managed to evade capture. In 1980, a potential clue emerged when a young boy discovered a decaying package containing $20 bills along the Columbia River, not far from Vancouver, Washington. The serial numbers matched those of the ransom money, yet this tantalizing lead provided no concrete answers, only deepening the mystery. Over the years, the case has inspired countless theories and investigations. Suspects have ranged from experienced paratroopers to rogue businessmen, yet none have been definitively linked to the hijacking. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the active investigation, designating it as one of the agency's few unsolved major crimes. Despite the lack of resolution, the legend of D.B. Cooper endures, a testament to one man's audacious plan. In 1917 to 1928, the world witnessed a disturbing medical phenomenon known as encephalitis lethargica, or the sleeping sickness. This illness afflicted approximately 500,000 people globally, thrusting them into a nightmarish state. Victims, while fully conscious, found themselves inexplicably frozen, their bodies becoming immobile prisons for their active minds. EL first emerged in Europe and spread, reaching epidemic levels in North America, Europe, and India by 1919. The disease began with flu-like symptoms, followed by profound lethargy and neuropsychiatric manifestations. The most harrowing aspect was the post-encephalitic phase, where survivors were left with severe long-term consequences, unable to interact with their environment despite being fully aware of it. These individuals, often described as living statues, could occasionally manage limited speech, eye movement, and even laughter, but these moments were rare. The exact cause of EL remains elusive. One theory suggests it may be linked to brain inflammation, triggered by a rare strain of Streptococcus, the bacteria responsible for many sore throats. It is hypothesized that this strain mutated, causing the immune system to mistakenly attack the brain, resulting in severe neurological damage observed in EL patients. Curiously, EL seemed to vanish as mysteriously as it appeared. Late 1920s, new cases had dwindled, leaving medical experts baffled. However, the disease did not disappear entirely. Sporadic cases have surfaced over the decades, such as in Europe during the 50s and 10 years ago in China, where a 12-year-old girl was hospitalized for 5 weeks with symptoms reminiscent of EL. The persistence of EL in sporadic cases raises unsettling questions. A 2004 study analyzing 20 patients with symptoms closely resembling EL concluded that the condition is still prevalent. suggesting that the sleeping sickness may not be confined to history.
If you would like to hear more stories and support this channel, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching.